book lovers, and welcome back or welcome to Nat Cat's Bookish Cafe. Today I will be doing my April TBR. Alright guys, I am so excited. We are back for another TBR using my TBR game Lezerin Agedishnisht, and I will also be taking part in Book Roast's Orilium Readathon, which is the spring equinox is happening in the month of April. So I will be starting out this TBR by doing my roles for my TBR game, and then I will go through the prompts for the readathon. So a couple things, the first being that while I was setting up my game, for some reason I remembered that way back in December, I don't know why the thought came to me, I had pulled a prompt that had a sticker on it, which would have meant that I needed to do an additional roll. However, in December, I was already rolling 12 times because I was building a bingo board, and I said that I would then roll an additional roll in the following month. Did I honestly can't remember, but I decided since I remembered it that I would go ahead and do 6 rolls this month instead of the usual 5, so you will see me rolling 6 times. Also, when I bring you over to my first roll, you will see me explaining another change that I am making to my game. It's a small change, but you know, as I mentioned in that video, it is my first time going through this game, so I am still just working out some of the kinks. But if you want to see the original instruction video as well as my other TBRs, I'm going to go ahead and link the playlist up above. And before we get into the rolls, I'm going to go through what I pulled in the month of February to see if we get a punishment or if we get a reward. So for the first roll in February, I got a sci-fi that needed to be on my Kindle. I chose The Third Daughter for this, and I did not read it, so that is one punishment for me. The next prompt was a fantasy that was a hyped book, and I chose The Pale Dreamer by Samantha Shannon, and I did read this. I then got a punishment prompt, which was to read a classic, and I did read Howl's Moving Castle for that. I then got a contemporary that was a seasonal read, and I read Don't Cry for Me by Daniel Black and completed it. Next, I got a horror thriller mystery where there had to be 4 or more words in the title, and I chose Comfort Me with Apples, and I did complete this. Then I got a contemporary, which is to continue a series, and I chose How to Be a Movie Star, and I did complete this. Next, I got a romance that has similar themes or vibes to my favorite song of the time, and I chose Heaven Official Blessing Volume 2 and did complete this. I got another punishment where I had to choose a book off of someone's worst of the year books, and I chose These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong. I have not read this yet, so this could be considered the first book on my April TBR since I am continuing to push it on beyond February, beyond March. I just haven't been getting to it. This is a Romeo and Juliet retelling. I believe it's historical as well, or yeah, so the year is 1926. So it's historical, taking place in Shanghai, and we are following a daughter and a son of 2 separate gangs who used to be romantically involved but fell apart. Their gangs are rival gangs, but there is some sort of plague going around that is causing people to like rip out their own throats, so their gangs are having to come together to try to resolve this issue. Next, I got a fantasy with a city setting, and I chose The Last Sun, and I did read this. And finally, I got another punishment prompt, which was to read one of my lowest rated books on Goodreads. I chose Meet Cute Diary for this one. I did start reading it, but I did DNF it. Alright guys, so we will be starting this off with one punishment prompt and no rewards. So I will go ahead and send it over to Natalie by the game board to update you on that change and to go ahead and pull the punishment and the first roll. All right, guys, so here is how the board looked like at the end of February. So the change that I'm making is usually when I roll a color, if there is a piece in the house, I have to take it out, even if it knocks someone out. Now, as you can see, there are a ton of pieces on the board and it's getting a little bit crazy. So instead of having to take a piece out, I can move any piece that I want. I could take a piece out, or I can move one of the pieces that are already on the board. So this is my first round of playing this game, so it's a bit of a pilot, which is why I'm been making a couple changes to it each month, but hopefully once I get through the first round, I'll be able to film another instruction video for this game, and everything will just be in one place instead of you kind of having to watch all the different videos to see the changes that I gradually make. But you know, we're just working the kinks out. But yeah, here we are, and as you can see, I still have 2 of my rewards here, which is ignore genre and exchange for a mood read. Those I may need this month. And we'll go ahead and start with our punishment prompt before we get into our 6 rolls. All right, so we got 4 punishments left at this time. Let's see. The only one I'm really hoping I don't get is the tome one, which of course, as soon as I said it, is the one that I got. So this is a tome, so I need to read a book that's over 500 pages. Zoinks. All right, guys, getting into roll number 1 out of 6. We're starting with a mystery, thriller, or horror. All right, and I got 3, so moving 3 would move this guy out, or would knock that guy out. So we're gonna move this one 3 spaces. So this horror, thriller, mystery needs to be written by a Black author. All right, so for our punishment prompt, we pulled the one I was hoping not to pull, story of my life. You know, I jinxed it, had it coming. So I need to read a tome, which is over 500 pages. I've decided to put one of the books that are on my 20 books to read in 2022, because I did make sure to put at least 5 tomes on there, and this one is The Sword of Kagan by M.L. Wang. This is a standalone fantasy. I think it's slightly over 600 pages. Yeah, pretty much exactly 600, maybe like 604 or 5 pages long. And we are following, it seems like 2 characters. We're following a young 14-year-old boy who is a part of a noble family, I'm assuming, within a very powerful empire where the fighters have incredible skill, and I think are able to even maybe use some sort of environmental powers, or elemental powers, I should say. And he is just learning to be a wonderful fighter. But one day, someone from the outside world comes in and starts causing this young boy to question things about his empire, and if it was built on lies, and what the outside world is really like. We also seem to be following his mother, who gave up being a fighter to be a wife and a mother, and now that her son is asking questions and their kingdom is under threat of invasion, it looks like she may need to pick up that sword again. So I've heard really great things about this story. I'm glad it's a standalone, so I don't have to start another series or anything like that. And hopefully I get to it this month, or if not, you know, with punishments, I can just carry it over without having to worry about having to pull another punishment. All right, so for the first official prompt, we landed on the genre of horror, mystery, thriller, and the prompt is that it is written by a Black author. For this one, I decided to choose Cherish Farah by Bethany Morrow. In this book, we are following a character who is one of the 2 Black girls at a country club. The other black girl is her friend, but this black girl is being raised by white parents that adopted her. When our main character's family faces foreclosure on their home, she ends up living with this other girl in her very wealthy white home. And she's trying to like integrate herself into her family so that she can gain, I guess, the advantages in life that comes with having wealthy white parents. But her parents are suggesting that there's something wrong with the family, but she doesn't trust them because they also think there's something wrong with her. So it sounds very interesting. It is a very low rated book. However, I do take low ratings when it comes to black horror with a large sprinkle of salt, and I'm very excited to be giving this book a try. I'll be listening to it via audiobook. All right, roll number 2 out of 6. We have a sci-fi and 1, so I am not able to move any of these without knocking someone out. So I'm going to knock out this contemporary because he's closer to his house. So he goes home and I'll have to take another punishment. But this sci-fi needs to be by Hispanic or Latinx author. And then another punishment prompt. So this will be for my These Books Will Self-Destruct list, which I'm not too mad about because I need to get to those by July, and I've only read 1 out of 6 of them so far. All right, the next prompt I got was a sci-fi that is written by a Hispanic or Latinx author. So for this one, I chose The Vanishing Half by Simon Jimenez or Simone. I'm not sure if it's Simon or Simone. However, this is a book that I will be getting from my library book. I am honestly a little nervous about choosing this because it was telling me that they were getting the audiobook and it had like a little bell on it so they could let me know when they received it. And I'm really hoping that the same isn't applying for the physical book because otherwise I may not get it this month if they haven't received the book yet. But I put myself on hold and it says I'm the first person in line, whether that's because the book isn't there yet, so no one's on hold for it, or because I'm just lucky. We will see. But this is a sci-fi story about a woman who kind of transports items throughout space and time, I think, and one day is asked to transport a young boy with a very traumatizing past. She and this boy form a strong bond and become like a small family, but his past is catching up and threatening to rip their family apart. This is a book that I heard really positive things about from Jess. Their new YouTube name is Jess on YouTube. They used to be Bow Ties and Books, but they had high praise for the story. So I'm really hoping I can get it into my hands soon and give it a try. We got another book, we got another punishment, which we have to choose from our list of books that are going to self-destruct in July of this year, which is a good thing because I've only read 1 of those books so far. The one I decided to go with is The Confessions of a Young Nero. This is the one that's just been calling out to me the most out of all the books on that list. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a try. I'm just going to read the back for this because I don't know too much about the story or anything. It says, built on the backs of those who fell before it, Julius Caesar's imperial dynasty is only as strong as the next person who seeks to control it. In the Roman Empire, no one is safe from the sting of betrayal, man, woman, or child. With impeccable research and captivating prose, The Confessions of Young Nero is a story of a boy's ruthless ascension to the throne, detailing his journey from innocent youth to infamous ruler. So that just sounds really intriguing to me. I don't really know anything about this specific ruler, so I may check out some videos on YouTube just to get like a base knowledge about this guy before I jump into this book. I mean, it says impeccable research, but you know, it never hurts to double check. All right, roll number 3 out of 6. A fantasy. Getting some good variety this month. Number 2. So we'll go ahead and move this guy. So this fantasy, geez, I'm getting all the all the minority authors. This needs to be a fantasy by an Indigenous author. All right, roll number 3 was a fantasy written by an Indigenous author. I have decided to use one of my rewards for this one, which is the reward to ignore the genre, which means that it doesn't have to be a fantasy. I will be reading The Toughest Indian in the World by Sherman Alexie, which is a contemporary collection of short stories. This is written by an Indigenous author about Indigenous characters, and we seem to just be following a few successful Indians as they are living their life, day-to-day life. I'm usually not a huge fan of short stories, but this is on my spring TBR, so I am looking forward to actually being able to get to one of the books on my seasonal TBR, because usually I don't really prioritize those. Roll number 4 out of 6. Another sci-fi. And we got 6. So let's see who we move. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's move this guy. Pick this up. All right, so this sci-fi needs to be a book of the month book. So it doesn't have to be one of the book of the month books that I own, but it has to have been an option for the subscription box. For roll number 4, we got another sci-fi, and this one is to be a book of the month book. Now, I do have Upgrade by Blake Crouch on my shelf. However, I have not read Recursion yet, so I want to read them in publication order, even though they're like probably no way related. So I did struggle to find a book for this, so I used my other reward that I had saved up, which was to exchange for a mood read, which means I could read any book, any genre, doesn't have to go with the prompt at all. And I decided to put Escaping from Houdini by Carrie Maniscalco on this. I was really hoping to get this read in March, but it just didn't happen. So I'm very excited to be able to get this on my April TBR. This is the 3rd book, the first one being Stalking Jack the Ripper. We are following, I believe her name is Audrey, yes, and she is a young woman. She's about 17, 18 in this series, and she wants to become a forensic scientist. So she is often seen with her uncle performing autopsies on people and murder victims, which is very much frowned upon in this day and age. We follow her as she investigates different murders that are based off of well-known people. The first one being Jack the Ripper, the second one being Dracula, and in this one, the murder seems to revolve around the well-known magician Houdini. I've absolutely loved this series. I really love the romance that is present in it. I am very invested in our main character and her ability to achieve her goals and dreams. I've really enjoyed the writing. It's really beautiful. I'm just really excited to be getting back to this and making more progress in this series. All right, roll number 5 out of 6. Another sci-fi. I guess it's going to be a sci-fi heavy month. And we have 4. So not this guy. I'm going to actually move 1, 2, 3, 4. This one. And that is an audiobook, which is good considering how many books I have on my TBR, I definitely need some audiobooks. All right, for roll number 5, we got another sci-fi, and this one is to be an audiobook. For this one, I'll be selecting Unwind by Neil Shusterman. I have read his Scythe series and absolutely loved it, so I'm excited to check out some more of his work. This book seems to be a YA as well, and we are in a dystopian society where people can choose to unwind their children if they don't feel that they are gonna contribute to society enough or are not well behaved, and it seems that these children are then killed and their organs are repurposed. So that's kind of what I got from the synopsis. Sounds creepy, and we seem to follow 2 teenagers, a young boy and a young girl, who have been selected to be unwound. So excited to check this out. I thought he had really interesting concepts in Scythe, and this concept sounds very interesting as well. So hopefully I enjoy it. All right, and roll number 6 out of 6. Another fantasy. And we got a 2, so can't move those. Oh, we're gonna have to take another person out. Oh gosh, which one am I kicking out? Let's go ahead and take out this one. All right. And this is a random number generator. So I will go ahead and let's see. I think what I'll do is I'll choose a selection of books and then randomly generate a number, and whichever number that book is aligned with, I will go ahead and read. All right, and another punishment. Despite my new rule, I still got 3 punishment prompts just like the month before. All right. Poetry. I gotta read a poetry book. All right, so for roll number 6, we got a fantasy and a random number generator. For this one, I had some books from my Aurelium TBR left over that were fantasy, and I did a random number generator to choose which one of those I read. Honestly, I only had 2 options, so I did Siri generate a number through 1 through 2, and I got number 2, which is going to be Silver in the Wood by Emily Tesh. This is another book that I will be getting from my library, but it is very short, so I'm excited to be getting this one on my TBR. This seems to be kind of a queer fantasy story where we're following a man who watches over the woods, I think, in some way, and one day he meets up with another man, and it's such a short book that I don't know anything about it, but I'm considering that a good thing. So I'm just gonna go into it relatively blind. I'm hoping it has nice, some nice writing in it, and that it's just kind of maybe slightly eerie or maybe cozy. I don't know, but you know, we're gonna read it and we're gonna find out. All right, and then to finish up my TBR game, we did get another punishment, and this one was to read a poetry. Luckily, I have a well-known, well-respected poetry collection on my shelves called Cat versus Human, which I'm assuming that these are all written by different people because there's no author, but there is an illustrator, which is Yasmin Surovic. So this is just a collection of poems about cats that I picked up a few years ago and just have not gotten around to reading. They are super short, so I'll probably just read maybe a few a day and just make my way through it. So it should be a relatively easy read. I'm definitely giving myself a little bit of a breather here by putting this on my TBR. All right, guys, so now we're going to get into my TBR for the Orilium Readathon. We are doing our spring equinox. So we have to take classes for our careers that we chose, and each class is associated with a prompt. So I actually chose 2 careers. I am a Beastmaster and a Necromancer. Last year I became a novice in both of those. I'm not going to go too much into what I did for that because I can't remember if I already had a YouTube channel when I was doing all that, and it's just very kind of complicated. But definitely go check out Book Roast channel if you want to take part in this readathon. Never too late to join. It is a lot of fun. So because I am doing 2 different careers, I have a total of 10 prompts. I am doubling up on those prompts. So if one class was needed for necromancy and for being a beastmaster, I will count those together. I'm not going to be too mean to myself. So I'm going to go ahead and go through those books for the ones that are on my TBR game as well. I'm not really going to talk about those too much, obviously, since I already did. And then we'll talk about the additional books as well. So the first class I need to take is Shape-Shifting, in which we need the book to have a wolf on the cover, either the word wolf because it's in the title or because it's the author's name, or there can be a picture of a wolf on it. The only option that I had for this is A Wolf Gone Wild, and that has a picture of a wolf and it has the word wolf in the title. This seems to be kind of a cozy-ish fantasy where we are following a werewolf who is unable to shift, but you can still hear the kind of annoying voice of his wolf in his head. There is a woman, I believe she's a witch, who this wolf comes across one day and decides that she is going to be his mate and therefore pursues her. I heard that this book has a good sense of humor in it, which is something that I always enjoy in my romances. So I'm hoping that this will be a fun, cozy time. Next class is Animal Studies, Heads or Tails. I needed to flip a coin, and if I got heads, I had to read a nonfiction, and if I flipped tails, I could read a fiction. So here's a quick clip of me flipping a coin. All right, guys, I'm gonna do a quick coin flip. Now, I don't really know how to flip coins, so this will be interesting. I'm just gonna... All right, so that is heads. Which one is that? Heads is nonfiction. So I guess I'm putting a nonfiction on my list this month. So I got heads, which means I have to read a nonfiction. The nonfiction I'm selecting is Evicted by Matthew Desmond. I believe this was maybe on like my my fall TBR, and I just haven't gotten around to it yet. I'm just going to read the back because I don't know too much about it. It says, in Evicted, Princeton psychologist and MacArthur genius Matthew Desmond follows 8 families in Milwaukee as they each struggle to keep a roof over their heads. Hailed as wrenching and revelatory, vivid and unsettling, Evicted transforms our understanding of poverty and economic exploitation while providing fresh ideas for solving one of 21st century Americans' most devastating problems. Its unforgettable scenes of hope, loss remind us of the centrality of home, without which nothing else is possible. So this is one that's been on my TBR for a little while. I think that it got on my radar because of one of my college courses. So I'm definitely very interested in reading about this in my work. The primary population that I work with are people in poverty, so I'm always looking to educate myself more on that issue. Next class is Inscription, and it is to read a book from one of my top shelves. So over here I have my 2 TBR shelves, and I technically have another one over there and my cart, but from the highest shelf I did pull The Toughest Indian by Sherman Alexie, and this one is also part of my TBR game. Next class is Spells and Incantations. This is to read a book between 389 pages and 415 pages. For this one, I chose The Vanishing Bird by Simone Jimenez, and this one I believe is about 390 pages per Goodreads. Next we have Conjuration, which is to read a book recommended by a friend. I went on Instagram a couple days ago and asked people to recommend me one of their favorite books, and is Bailey reading. Actually recommended Unwind by Neil Shusterman. When I saw that, my first thought was how much fun I had reading Warcross by Marie Lu. So I decided I would go ahead and select that one, also because it worked for me to be able to double up with one of my TBR prompts as well. Next class is Restoration, and this was to take some books and shuffle them and then randomly select one. Now for this one, I did something a little bit different. I took the books that were on my TBR games, TBR that were not yet fitted in with a prompt on this Aurelium TBR, and I was gonna shuffle them and then choose one, but the books were so different in size that it would have been impossible for me not to know like which one I was pulling. So I just did a random number generator of 1 through 3 and ended up getting 3, which of course gave me this chonker, The Sword of Kaigan by M.L. Wang. Next class is Demonology, and this is to read a book that was compared to one of your favorite books. I will be reading Cherish Farah, sorry, I keep saying her name wrong, Farah, I'm gonna call her. And this book seems to be kind of compared to kind of those books with the Get Out vibes. I'm hoping it's kind of similar to When No One Is Watching, maybe even a little bit of Ace of Spades. So that is why I went ahead and selected that book. The second to last course is Elemental Studies, a book with flowers on the cover. For this one, I will be choosing These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong. And for the final book, or the final class, we have Alchemy, which is to have a medal in the title. I was this close to choosing Silver Under Nightfall by Rincha Pecco because I really want to read that book. However, I have a vlog idea for that, and with how many books I already have on my TBR, I wasn't able to get the other book that I would want to read in that same vlog on this TBR. So instead, I will be reading Silver in the Wood. All right, guys, so this is my physical TBR. We also have Cherish Farah, Unwind, and The Vanishing Bird, and Silver in the Wood. So we have quite a lot of books on this TBR. When it comes to the Orilium Readathon, I have often given myself 2 months to complete them. So that is probably what I will do this month as well, especially when it comes to my nonfiction books, since I always give myself 2 months to read a nonfiction. So I am pretty excited about this TBR. I think it's got some good variety in it, and I wish me luck because I am a little bit nervous. All right, guys, let me know down below if you're taking part in the Aurelium Readathon, and if so, what career you have selected, or just let me know what books you are most looking forward to reading in April. Thank you guys, as always, for supporting my channel, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!